something bad happened to Kaylee. Something bad happened. And, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? And she's like, I think Kaylee's dead.
She had an interaction with a date.
Don't let it die.
You need to be vocal. We went and investigated Adam. Adam is about her.
Half of the, like, they almost like became to us like two halves to a whole.
On December 28th, 2 days before the suspect was arrested, my friend Bullhorn Betty and I had the honor of meeting the Goncalves family. If you guys know anything, please contact the tip line. It's important. If you live in the area and have anything. They welcomed us into their home.
I hate having the date of death on there. So. It was a scavenger hunt. Getting frustrated, don't blow a gasket, head to the link to get your Easter basket. She did a, yeah.
It must have been that year that they dressed up in the bunny costume. It was Jack dressed up in that bunny costume. Aww. When my kids came over.
And Kaylee hopped off down the street in the bunny suit.
Yeah.
And she still had her dark hair. Yeah, the years just fly by, and but that's our only family photo.
Their daughter, Kaylee Goncalves, followed me on TikTok and shared my videos with her family, which is why her father, Steve, reached out to me a few weeks ago. This interview is bittersweet and personal. Well, thank you for having us. We're very honored, and we're very sorry for your loss. And we want to help in any way we can. And I think telling Kaylee's story is profound, and I think that's really important.
Giving her humanity,
and humanizing her story.
Humanizing her.
What was Kaylee like as a child?
She was very rambunctious. She just was full of energy. She was the middle of 5, so 2 older, 2 younger. Olivia was the oldest. And just was constantly trying to keep up with the elders, and then, be a little boss hog for the littles. She was the fair police. Nothing got past her. If there was, a $200 pair of shoes that she wanted when school started, and, we had school clothes to buy for everybody, it was like, Kaylee, you got to bring that down a little. We have, 5 kids to buy for. You might as well just buy them for her now, because she would just nag you to death until you just buy them. Just buy them. And the other kids would be like, wow. We'd be like, she was
a total hustler, though.
Yeah, she was.
Where she would be like, Mom, can I, mop the floors for $5?
Mm-hmm.
And Mom would be like, yeah, that's a super good deal. And so she kind of got this name about herself growing up, where she was the cleaner, right? So Kaylee was the one who was she was known, where she knew that if she, before Mom and Dad got home or whatever, did the dishes, wiped the counters, swept the floors, and mopped, Dad was gonna give her 20, and she was gonna beat you to do it. And I got to the point where my brother and I didn't even try anymore, because we were just like, Kaylee's gonna do it anyway. Because she was just a hustler like that. Because even before, now she was into, obviously her Range Rover, she was really proud of that. Her designer clothes, stuff like that. That was just who she was. But it started with Claire's, with hair accessories, and then it was Bath and Body Works, and she was collecting the scents and the little hand sanitizers.
Everything was a competition.
Everything was a competition.
Steven
and it was
woke up after playing a video game with her, and she was still playing it. And he was like, "I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
This girl wants it more than me.
She had to be the score.
So it seems like she was driven from a very young age.
She had 2 older brothers. Bryce was just right there.
Her cousin grew up very close
So she
with
thought
her.
she could be as fast as them. She could ride the bike.
Always
as
wanted to
quick as
race
them.
wanted to ride the motorcycle.
We would go out on the lake with the boat. My parents had a boat. We would go out and, my dad would say, $5 to whoever is the first in the water for the season, right? And it was cold. It's probably about 59 degrees by the time we were going out. Kaylee was...
It was $5?
It was $5. It was $5, and she would do it for $5. She jumps into that water, she instantly pops her head up and is bawling.
Just bawling.
Bawling. It was that cold. But she couldn't let the boys beat her. She couldn't let me beat her.
No.
She couldn't let anyone beat her. She was
Love
like,
that memory.
you know, it was definitely the financial motivation as well as her just being like, I'm gonna be number one.
Yep.
You know, there was this big pole in the lake and you could kind of climb up it. It was a little rickety, but you could get to the top and you could jump in. I was always too scared to do it.
About 40
Kaylee
feet.
was like, she watched Steven do it, the boy, and was like, I'm gonna do that. And I
can
was
do
like,
it.
Kaylee, don't do it, Kaylee, no. And she was like, I'm not scared, Olivia. You're just being a baby for being scared. And she climbed her ass up that pole and she jumped off. And it was
Steven was
tall.
rooting for her the
We
whole
have
time.
pictures of her. We have pictures
He
of
was
her.
rooting. He's like, don't look down because I told the kid,
Don't
if you
look down, Kaylee.
you'll do a face plant.
It was tall.
Yeah.
So it was my idea. My mom she had Autumn, who's the fourth baby, and she was pregnant with Aubrey, was the fifth. So she was upstairs taking a nap. And my dad was still at work, and you know, I was kind of just watching my little siblings. We were all just hanging out. And I had an idea that we had a double garage, and it was an automatic door. And I don't know why, but I got this idea like that we should have a competition and see who could hold on to the garage door as it went up the longest, and then you would drop. And so we were doing this. We had like a whole setup. Like at one point, my brother was like, "We need a washcloth. This is cutting my hands." Right? That should have been our notion to stop. Right? I should have known better. But we all got so competitive about it. So by the time my dad, you know, drove up home,
And the kids are hanging on the garage.
that's been going nonstop for
Up
40
and down,
minutes.
up and down.
Oh my gosh.
Just the little garage engine that could. And this garage door, if it had come crashing down, was probably, what, 250 pounds?
Oh, yeah.
It
Would have crushed us.
scared me to death.
It was the only time ever growing up that Dad actually got mad at us and like we were in trouble. And I remember Steven and I we were upset, we were crying, we had disappointed our dad, right? We were so sad. And Kaylee just kind of wasn't. And we thought that was all weird until my dad kind of like realized like him just being disappointed wasn't enough for Kaylee. A total little prankster, but we were all pranksters. Like Mom and I would prank the shit out of Kaylee all the time. Like we
That's
just
the way
did
I raised you
that.
guys. I raised you guys to be like interesting like that.
She really didn't do any like major sports or anything like that.
Yeah.
She definitely, we all did baseball. She was on the same team as my brother actually. But she didn't do that for long. She wanted to do soccer for a minute, Dad, but I think she just did like a soccer camp for summer and she was out of that. But she never did like the
She played
cheerleading.
softball for a year.
Yeah, she did the team.
Well, I'm just wondering because you guys were talking about the competitiveness, and I'm thinking, you
She
know,
was born that way,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, she really just, I remember the day Kaylee was born. You know, I'm about 5 years older than Kaylee, so I must have been around 4 or 5, but I remember the day Kaylee was born.
Best part about the story is when a kid actually gets in trouble.
Yes. So Kaylee's clear.
Here's the truth. I've whipped your ass since I was.
Oh yeah, we got spanked. I
You're
just want
always
to
gonna
say
be
that.
like I literally see my kids dying in front of my eyes, and I ran up and I was like,
What are you guys doing?
and they're like, yeah, it's so fun, Dad. We're gonna do it again. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You just basically give me the worst dad award ever. My kids are gonna die from a driveway.
So we go inside.
They get
Dad's-
whippings.
Dad's mad. You know, Steven and I are just blubbering messes. Our dad's mad
Kaylee's
at
just
us.
stone-faced.
And Kaylee's just stone-faced. And we're like, this is weird,
Cry,
right?
Kaylee, cry.
My dad notices and he clicks. Something clicks with him and he goes, by the way, Kaylee, I'm not taking you to Claire's tonight. And she dropped to her knees and started bawling because for her, give her any corporal punishment. You know, tell her you're disappointed in her. Tell her, you know, that was a bad move. But don't take Claire's. At the time, it
Not
was
going to
all
the
about
mall. Not
Claire's.
taking you to the mall.
Yeah, she wasn't going to the mall, and that was it. She had already planned her next outfit. The next day around that Claire's accessory she was gonna get. I don't know, but
She wound up getting to go.
she did. She actually did.
I did a lot of chores.
She did a lot of chores. I was like, all right, let me finagle my way out of this. What if I ironed your shirts, Dad?
There's a lot of work.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Can I wash the boat?
what do you remember the first time the girls met? I know you said they met each other in the 6th grade, but do you guys remember that event when they met? Like when she came home and first told you about her friend
These girls
Maddie?
definitely know that. Talk about how conservative and how.
Maddie's we had been hearing about Maddie, her new friend that she had met at her new junior high and whatnot, which was at the school they met at. And but for Maddie to come over, you know, her mom wanted the whole phone call and whatnot, and I wanted to meet them in person and all that. And I was very much so a little bit like, I don't know, I was just very like, sure, you can go. I mean, maybe a quick phone call, but I mean, she wanted it. Like, her mom wanted to meet us. Her dad wanted to meet us in person and be like, you know, come into the house. And we were like, she wants to come into the house.
It's gonna be embarrassing.
Yeah. Oh, they want to like have a sit down just for their kid to come over for a couple hours. She's not even staying the night. You know, it took forever. She used to come over after school all the time, but every time they would walk her in, they would say, "How's it going?" You know, hello, you know, this and that. Her dad would, or they would call, and then it finally started getting to the calls. I'm like, well, we're getting a little better now. We just get the call like somebody's going to be there the whole time, right? You need 3 hours, you're going to be there.
Only baby.
You know, and Maddie just fit right in with us. I mean, she just absolutely just.
Yeah, that was it. School started in August, and it was September that Maddie started coming over, and that was it. You know, that
Just
was
like spend the night.
All the time, and then it got to where she just would spend the night. Kaylee would spend the night over there. I mean, it didn't matter if it was a school night or not. The thing with Maddie was she was kind to the little sisters. You know, we had 2, and they loved her so much, and she would play with them. Like, not a lot of your older friends, I mean, because they were pretty, you know, they were like, you know, they're brats, you know. But she really embraced Autumn and Aubrey and Olivia. You know, Olivia loved her, and she just you know, and Steven. She was kind to
Fit
Steven
right
and
into the family.
yeah,
they were totally like yin and yang, where they were such opposites of each other, but it just worked so well together. Where it was like half of the, like, they almost like became to us like 2 halves to a whole. You know, where it was like, yes, Kaylee is my sister and Maddie is my sister, but like it's Kaylee and Maddie. Like, as strange as that sounds,
it was
One
you
had
know,
no patience, the other one
Yeah.
had all the patience.
you know, and they would balance each other in just like
every
the
vacation
most
we went on.
beautiful way.
We wound up being able. Karen wound up letting us take Maddie out of the country. We took her to Belize, and we took her to Cozumel, and we went to Grand Cayman Islands, and Maddie was with us. Karen took the girls to Hawaii on a girls trip.
Swears that was the best trip she's ever been on.
We're like, we did
Everyone's
here,
been-
here, and here, but
She said Hawaii and Maui
She
specifically.
said
Maui.
stateside, so you were like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's so
yeah, she said that
disappointing,
trip
but you're right.
with Maddie,
Super
and
awesome.
they just
She had some of the best memories of her life.
they had other friends, you know. They were in a group of bigger friends, but it was always Kaylee and Maddie, you know.
Yeah.
Always. You know, there was a couple other friends.
It was
throughout
like
the
this like
years,
ebb and flow, where it was like, you know, they were always together, but like there was always room for others because they really were sisters. You know, it wasn't like this this competition between them of this best friend slot. Like, that was always a given, and they
People
really
knew.
were just kind of combined, I guess, in a way that was more complex than a friendship.
Yeah.
So it was like, you'll see a lot of pictures of Kaylee with other people, or Maddie, or I've seen a lot of people say, well, how close could they be if they were in different sororities? And
that
was
was hard.
just
That
so
was hard for them.
It was
Because
and
they both went and rushed to get an AV house, and Kaylee got in and Maddie did not, and she wound up in Pi 5. But it was really
it
good
was
for
so
them.
good for
It wound,
them.
because they really did live their lives a little bit different, separately for those couple of years. Even though the houses were right around the corner for each other, there was a lot of devotion that you had to put within those houses, within those groups of girls and stuff. So Maddie made a ton of new friends, and Kaylee made a ton of new friends, and I mean, they still spoke a lot, you know, but
Came home every time together. They would drive back together, like
Vacations were
like
together.
sisters.
they
Where
were,
it's like,
you know, Mexico and
that's
stuff. And
how it was, you know, like.
And then Kaylee moved in with Maddie. They moved out of their sorority houses a couple of years ago. And Maddie moved into that house, and Kaylee had moved into an apartment. And then last June, Kaylee moved in to Maddie's house.
A lot of people, I think, don't realize, but Kaylee was just about to graduate.
Kaylee did graduate.
She
in
did. She
December.
was fully graduated.
It
She was
wasn't a
done.
fake.
She was done.
She was done.
in
Yeah,
December.
it wasn't given posthumously. She earned that.
Yeah.
She earned it, and that was really frustrating for us because
Yeah.
it's almost like she knew she only had a certain amount of time on this planet, and she was rushing through it as fast as she could.
She always did summer school and whatnot, so she just told me, you know, a few weeks before that that she was going to be graduating in December. And she was so, she goes, I don't know if I'm going to walk though. I just might just get my degree. And I'm like, well, let us know, you know, because we'll be
But I
down
was
there.
proud of her to be like, I don't need the attention.
And then,
I've earned it, and I've earned it fast, and I'm ready to just move on with my life. And I was like,
we will.
that's how we look at life. You know, it's not about the celebration. It's about just moving on to the next step. And gosh, it would have been just an amazing citizen for our country. The person that would show everyone like you can come from anything and do anything and just work hard and be a success. And that's such a good positive message, and we lost that, you know, and that's really hard for us.
Yeah, and she just bought that Range Rover, and you guys must have been so proud.
2 days before.
I wanted her to buy something
bought it
more
on the-
reliable.
Yeah, I wanted
As
to.
a dad, I was like, no.
She was looking at a few cars, and I said, get the Mercedes, get the Subaru. I said, but do not get that Range Rover, Kaylee. And she goes, I know, Olivia, but the name. And I said, it's gonna be nothing but problems for you. I tried to talk her out of it, and then my mom actually went call me, and she goes, she bought the Range Rover. And I was like, oh, well, I'm proud of her. I was like, I'm just gonna bite my tongue. I'm proud of her.
She did it all on her own. She called Maddie. It was really funny. She goes, Mom, I just called Maddie, and she had been like back and forth for days. This one. She goes, I asked Maddie, so which one do you think I bought? And Maddie said, I don't know, Kaylee. Probably a Ferrari at this point. And she goes, so she has no idea. And she goes, I'm just gonna surprise her. She's like, she's literally gonna, you know. And I'm like, she's gonna be surprised. It's nice. It is really nice.
But she worked for everything, right? You know, like she had her full-time job. It was technically an internship, but it was paid. I helped her negotiate a better rate on it. And
We're
then,
a family.
yeah,
It's always been a family.
she got a full-time position with that company as well. I helped her write her email to her boss. I still have it in my notes on my phone. Where I said, hi, Jeremiah. I said, hey, Jeremiah, you know, I'd like to talk to you, but just so proud of her. And like, she always did that. Like even as a kid, even with Claire, she always worked for it. You know, she never had anything handed to her, you know, anything like that. She always had the support of her family, but...
She called me and was like, Dad, do I sound stupid in this proposal? And I'm like, well, pitch it to me, girl. And she's like, all right, so I'm gonna say this and this and this, and then we just go back and forth, and I'd be like, all right, you know, this is how you say this acronym, and this is how you say this. And she literally looked for everyone to help her because she was smart enough to understand that my hustle will work, but I still need the knowledge of all the people around me. And I think that was the part that made me think, like, I never worried about her. I never worried about her.
Never.
I always just like, dude, she's just gonna.
I never worried about Kaylee.
No.
She called us frequently. We called her. When we called, she answered. You know, she kept in touch with us. She made, you know, good choices, you know, positive
And
choices.
she learned from the mistakes of others. You know, like I was the older sister and like I made a lot of mistakes, and Kaylee was the one to really like sit down and be like, okay, you messed up here, Olivia. Like, can you tell me why you did this? Like, walk me through your thought process so I don't make that same mistake. You know, and it just made me really proud of her to like not have her only like learn from her own mistakes and like make her own good decisions, but to be able to like look at those around her and, you know, with love in her heart too, to be like, help me be better, because, you know, she knew that's what we all wanted.
And you guys touched on something. I think we touched on it earlier at lunch. Going back to the night of the 12th, November 12th, and I think you hit, and I didn't even think of that perspective, but they did everything right.
Yeah.
And we discussed that. The buddy
It's a
system. Explain all the things that they did.
Yeah, they Ubered out together. They only went to known locations that they had been before.
Private driver.
They had
So
a
we don't
private
get paid.
driver. Yeah, I apologize. It was a private driver that they had actually used before, so they knew him. They had a relationship with this
We knew
individual.
him as a family member, and he really helped us.
Yeah.
He turned us on to the food truck stuff.
Yeah.
He was a great person.
Good
and
people. And then only went to like known locations with known people, traveled only together on well-lit, known streets to get food before taking a private ride from the same individual who would pick them up
Chaperone.
to go eat after a night of drinking, being 21, Ubering out, Ubering home with your friend.
They were totally
And
chaperone.
then
Everything
going to
was-
bed.
They were doing everything the way that you tell your kid to go. You
Yeah.
know, you don't be two girls all by yourself. Have somebody there that can walk with you. Everything was perfect. Everything was good.
Yeah.
All the way up to where they went to bed and went to sleep.
Yeah.
And that I can't control. As a family, we can't control what happens when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
When you go to sleep,
You shouldn't
that's
have.
us as society. We have to determine, are we going to let these people be out here that can do whatever they did, sneak into a house, whatever it was? Are we going to allow that to be normal? Are we going to allow that to be okay?
Yeah.
Because we all go to bed at night.
Yeah, what was their flaw? They didn't have a nanny cam in their home? What could they have done to be more
They
safe?
didn't lock the door perfectly.
Yeah. You know, it's Moscow, Idaho, it's safe.
I wonder about the door because Kaylee was a door locker. She would
She
come
totally
here,
was.
and so I question that all the time. Like, why wasn't the door locked? Why wasn't the door locked?
But that's not what society's built on. You don't say, oh, well, you didn't lock the door, so you deserve
Yeah.
to die in your sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't do that. We have to make a society where these people show red flags, we identify them, we address them, and then we remove them from hurting other people.
The phone call the Goncalves family received on November 13th is one they'll never forget.
We were, it was Sunday around
We were watching football.
1-ish, and we were
like
watching
every
football.
family, or a lot of families on Sunday.
And
we were
then
watching
our
football.
son was here. Everybody was home except for she was down at her home
'Cause
in
we
LA.
gather on
And
Sunday.
my niece called me and she was freaking out and she said, Christy, have you talked to Kaylee? And I said, yesterday, like last night. And she said, something bad happened to Kaylee. Something bad happened. And she was just bawling. And I said, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? And she said, I think Kaylee's dead. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she
All of our
said,
stomachs just dropped.
she
We were
said
just like,
there was somebody just called me and they live down there. And she said there was a party last night and Kaylee, somebody went in and shot the party up and Kaylee was shot. I was like, what? And I just threw my phone. I started screaming. I started telling everybody to call Olivia and to get all her roommates
Call
on the
Maddie.
phone. And I started calling Maddie, and Maddie wouldn't answer, and I said, no, this can't be, because Maddie would have called me. If Kaylee was shot last night at a party, Maddie or Jack would have called me. Like, no, and I called Kaylee and went straight to voicemail. I was calling Maddie, I was calling Jack, it was ringing. I turned on the TV, and I saw it said 1122 King Road. Kaylee's car was in the driveway, Maddie's car was in the driveway, but it was saying an unconscious person. And we're saying, okay, maybe this isn't, like, maybe something happened. So Steve starts calling the police. Steven, our son, started calling the hospital, and he started calling the PD and saying, my name is Goncalves, and we heard that my daughter Kaylee Goncalves was killed in an accident, and they said, oh, we can't give you any information, we'll call you back. Well, next thing you know, some more phones started ringing. Our daughters came running down, 16 and 17 years old, came and said, Mom, somebody just called me and said that Kaylee's dead. And we're like, what? Like, who was it? And she's like, I don't know, it's somebody that said that they're there and Kaylee's dead. And we were like, oh my God, like this can't be, and it's just very, very, very
yeah,
dramatic.
these protocols have to be updated.
Yeah.
These protocols of somebody showing up at your door 10 hours later is ridiculous.
Because we had hours of panic
We were
before
just-
sheriff
It was
department.
terrible.
It was about 4:30, and
Sad.
So you guys, they never called you. You guys found this out from family members
Yes.
that were in the area, and you guys didn't get notified. You actually reached out to them, and you guys still didn't get notified
he
for
wound up
hours.
calling them twice.
And I get it.
then I
Their
said,
protocols are all about, like, maybe they'll commit suicide or something, but they have to be updated because
The sheriff
social
came.
media moves so fast, so quick. That's
It's not
why we are
fair.
using social media. I'm not using the most common channels.
we called Karen and we asked Karen if she had heard anything, and she goes, yes, I was told that I need to get down here, that there
I
was an
thought hers was
accident.
good. We honestly.
We thought maybe Maddie was the unconscious person, and we had already been told by several people, like 100% Kaylee was dead. And we were like, 100, and they're
we were
bawling,
just
and they're
hoping
like
Maddie
this.
was just unconscious.
And then we're like, but Karen got a call saying to come down there. We haven't
we
got a
thought
call.
that was a good sign.
So we're like, oh,
And I kept giving them hope. I kept saying, if it happened last night, you guys would know by now. I kept giving them hope. I said, they just released an article that the roommates are being questioned right now. They probably took their phones, Mom. Like, I just kept giving them hope because I live in Los Angeles. I wasn't here. And that's all I could do. But, like, it's just this feeling in your gut that, like, I
I
just
knew.
sat with.
I knew as soon as my niece, I knew as soon as Sabrina called, I knew that it was real.
Yeah.
And she was freaking out.
And then cops showed up around 4:30.
Yeah, the sheriff came around 4:30, and then he told us that there were 4 victims, and we said, is one of them Maddie Mogen? And he told us yes. Then we realized that it was Kaylee and Maddie.
We
And
still knew she was going down there. I couldn't tell.
yeah, Karen was still on her way, and
Still driving.
and then she got down there, and she got there about 20 minutes after we got the news, and
Another person who is broken by the news of Kaylee's passing is her ex-boyfriend, Jack Decor. Not only has his life been picked apart, he's been scrutinized by social media.
You know in your heart he had nothing to do with this.
More than, I mean, even just logically. I think that a lot of people assume we're blinded by this individual, but contrary to that, we're very capable of removing our emotions for Jack, which is absolute love, and just looking at the situation logically, looking at this individual in front of us, looking at a pattern of behaviors of him that we've seen throughout 5-6 years. So emotionally, and, you know, in our hearts and in our heads and in every sense of the word, it's
Physics.
not
We did a job
thorough.
vetting him.
I asked him to, yes, like, did he have any scratches? Did he have any bruises? He came here immediately after it happened.
We can
He's
prove that
broken.
he had none.
No, I checked his shoes.
Yeah.
I checked his car. I checked his hands.
I took
I checked
photos.
his neck.
Yeah.
He came over in shorts
Yeah.
within hours.
And he was happy for Kaylee.
Yeah.
Whether they were, you know, I think they were close to getting back together. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were.
The whole-
Whether she was moving without him or not, he
Everything
had
was about
nothing
getting
but
together.
love.
We went and investigated Adam. What did you tell Adam? We went through that whole thing. Adam is about her trying to get back with Jack.
Day
Because they're
one,
roommates.
day one of this all happening, Jack was right there in the trenches with me, reaching out to people Kaylee had called. Who is
Spent
this?
the
Who
first
is
3
this?
nights here on our couch after he
No.
came. He could not leave us.
That's why the FBI agent said, Steve, slow down. We realize you guys are ahead of us. We realize that you guys have this chain of thought and you're going where we're going, but we're an organization and we have to check it a little bit slower than you. And you're just ripping through it and you're ready to tell everyone. He's like, slow down.
And I know it sounds weird that we asked him to show us his arms and stuff if we trusted him so much, but I mean, I think that
People
I
under,
don't-
I think people would look at you negatively if that wasn't your reaction.
you know, and I said, and I looked him in his eyes, and he was crying, and I was crying. I said, "I'm so sorry."
We hate
that I
doing
have
this
to ask
too,
you,
but we have
but
to
can
do
you
It broke his
please?"
heart.
Yeah.
And he was just like,
Nobody's
yes,
sticking up for
like,
me.
you know, lifted
Like,
up
and
his
we
shirt,
were sticking up
you know,
for him.
and I said, "Okay."
We're
I said,
not
"I'm so
blindly
sorry."
stupid parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry when your child
Yeah.
meets her demise.
And it did not make me feel good
yeah.
either. But I mean, I was just like,
But when people are like, how do we stick up for him blindly? We're not blind.
No.
Yeah.
We have
And we know that
done
kid's
our
heart.
due diligence. We
you know,
have
his
looked at this stuff.
family.
He's been around my babies when my babies were born. He would watch them for me so that I could go to the grocery store by myself.
Right.
He had nothing but love for Kaylee and Maddie.
The thing that got me is, I love that woman I've been married 27 years with. I've lost my cool. I've said things I shouldn't say. My daughter broke up with him, and within a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, she had an interaction with a date. And she said, call me a bitch. And she was like, I've been with one boy my whole
Never.
life.
And I said, he's never called you. And she's
ever
like,
called me.
never, Mom. And I said, really? And she goes, never. And he said, bitch, you could go make me a quesadilla. And she said, what did you say? And she said, I'm leaving. And she goes, and I left. And I went home like, oh, Jack.
She's like, I might not ever find another Jack.
And I'm like, you might not. And I said, honestly.
We would always tell her that, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she's like, she knows I'm a flawed guy, but we're still married 27 years, had 5 kids, we have a happy life. She's like, your dad's definitely called me some names.
I think it happens in any relationship.
But I think, yeah.
But it's
he
always
goes
the
from
people that
to
drive you up the
crazy
wall are the
killer.
ones you love the most.
Yeah, right? Yeah, no, she said, and I was just like, she's like, never.
Yeah.
Never. And I was just
We're
like,
supposed to believe he just takes out 4 on his way to. It just seems like a
Over
huge
what
trip.
custody of the dog? Like there's just
It wasn't
Because
all
Kaylee
that.
was leaving.
Kaylee was looking for every excuse for him to pick the phone up.
yes.
To read those texts. Like, I
She
will
wanted
leave
him to
tonight
go.
with the dog if you don't pick up. That type of thing.
Oh, so yeah. And they even when they broke up, they still communicated.
Yes,
it
every
sounds
day,
like
all the
it's
time.
like you know.
The whole
and-
time she
in
was
that
home.
bar
it was just
scene,
it was just a
they were around him. Not,
Yeah.
Not,
They
not
were-
Miss Jackson over here in the corner. No, she was around her ex, you know, and to me, that's comfort level. That's body language. That's this is the person that I'm comfortable in.
We talked to him about the conversation that night. We've talked to the other guy about the conversation that went on that night, and they both, you know, they were just like, hey, what's been up? How you been doing? You know, what's been going on? And she was trying to talk him into going to another bar down the street or something like that. And he's like, I worked all day. I'm tired. I'm going home. And he left and went home. And, you know, we think things could have been
We
different.
question
but, you
the
know,
time in that video.
That
We're not
time
sure if
stamp.
it's accurate, so people might look at that and take it to, based off of the records that we have, there could definitely be some questions on the timing of that.
right.
For sure, but I will just say, I can't verify the timestamp there, but I know for a fact that after they left the corner club, they walked to the grub truck. It's about an 8-minute walk, so we need to factor that in. And then they ordered food. They were at the grub truck for about 10 minutes, and they didn't leave the grub truck until the Uber driver had arrived at 1:49.
And those
So
cameras
if you
would
work
suggest-
backwards, that timestamp doesn't match up.
I would
So
suggest.
I don't know. I'm not going to say it's completely false or anything or how false it is. I don't know. But I'm saying from the timeline that I know for a fact, working it backwards doesn't match that timestamp.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
and it had just been daylight savings, so maybe they hadn't updated their cameras or something.
We are not gonna go to bed and wait for other people to resolve a family problem. This is a family problem. And
This isn't just
both
a family
those girls
problem. This
are
is-
our girls, and we are not. I'm not handing over. I thought about it. I thought like, here, just take care of my family and make sure that you find the right guy. And I eventually got to a point and said, you know what? My family, we're all G's. We call ourselves G's because nobody can pronounce our name. We are not going to sit here and let somebody else do a job that we can't add value to.
And you guys have added value. I mean,
Yes.
you, Olivia, found the Twitch video that actually solidified the timeline.
We watched the ring video that showed them pulling up, and we're like, that's them. It's 1:56. That's what time they got home. And there's the car leaving, and yeah.
So we're working.
And
with
I have
them.
my phone. Kaylee's phone is my phone, so we saw all the calls that she had made, and we with an exact time. And
I reached out to every person she called. I had them send screenshots of the communications that had happened on that day, of texts with my sister, of the call with my sister. How long was your phone conversation with her? Just to do whatever I could in those first few hours, because unfortunately by the time we even found out, they've been gone for more than 12 hours.
What America needs to know is you can be a victim all the way up to the point where you just hand it all off, or you can say, you know what? We have a moment in time to make an impact, do our due diligence, listen to what people are saying, write down deep notes, and you can be a part of solving it and work on it. Anyone who thinks that one officer or one department can do this alone for people, they're crazy.
Yeah.
This takes the whole community. This takes all of us to solve. We can't put this on one man, one officer, one police person, one deputy, one sheriff. We have to all come together and say, you know what, this is on us. Are we gonna let these
As a
people
community.
exist and go undetected? Or are we all gonna come together and say, this is enough? We are gonna stomp this guy out of our community. And I'm telling you right now, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
You're going to get stomped out.
Yeah.
I feel like America is behind us on this one. I mean, it started with, the community, and then Idaho, and then United States. And I mean, it is just insane. I mean, I have people from Amsterdam.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's worldwide now
It's
because I've got
worldwide.
people that are in my
it is
chats
world-
from all
Finland,
over. Yeah.
little countries in Asia, and Africa. It's
and
insane.
The only role that we can play is to keep this hot then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to sit there and say I have the tech that the FBI does. I'm not going to say I'm smarter than these people or anything like that. But I'm saying our role as a family is it's ebbing, it's flowing, it's molding, it's this one day, it's this another day. And we are there for whatever that is, but it's never going to be for us to sit back and do just nothing. You know, if it's pushing, if it's letting off the gas, if it's, you know, going down to Moscow, going door to door, asking for cameras, asking for testimony, whatever it is, we're not going to stop.
This is a small community, and we're not gonna let this become normal. We're not gonna let this become normal.
No, you don't go to sleep at night and somebody sneaks in your house.
You don't go to sleep at night not knowing at the end of the day you did absolutely everything you could have that day. To just your own capabilities. You know, I'm not saying go out there and you need to do a bunch of crazy shit. I'm not saying that.
Or yelling at other people that they didn't do it.
Right.
You're
but
doing it
to
yourself.
do whatever you can yourself so that you can go to bed at night saying, Kaylee and Maddie, I still got you.
Still gotta sleep, but
I still got you. Sometimes it's media, sometimes it's
Because
not.
they don't have a voice anymore.
They don't. But it doesn't mean that it stops where it
It's the
stopped.
new way to find justice.
I'm honored that, Steve, that you reached out to me a few weeks ago via email, and I just wanted to know, like, what made you reach out to me, or how did you kind of find me, or just kind of curious on that.
I was looking at Kaylee's footprint on the internet. I'm an IT guy, and I noticed that she had followed some crime type investigators, and I found you, and I was looking through your content, and I was like, all right, this is somebody that she definitely was way more committed to than just a hit or two or a subscription. So I was like, I need to figure out what case she was looking at. I started looking at the case that she was following with you, and then I was like, I'm gonna reach out because I want.
She'll help us. Kaylee.
Maybe she can help resolve Kaylee's story. They were already working together for other people's story, but maybe this can help resolve her own story, which is just terrible that this happened to her. But that was the daughter I had. She wanted to help other families find this justice. So if I could find somebody else who already she wanted to work with, then that's the person I want to help solve this case.
She always tried to get me to. I'm not a podcast person. I don't talk. Yeah, I don't listen to. And she would always tell me, you know, and I'm like, yeah. You know, I just turn on the radio. You know, AM station all the way to work.
And then the crazy part about I think all of it for us too is that, you know, we never talked to Kaylee about like, oh, what are you on your funeral?
No.
So a lot of these decisions we're making in the dark. So when we can find those personal connections, it feels like a natural path to go down because it feels like Kaylee guiding us. You know, this is Kaylee approved. I'll say it in my head, you know, like I'll have a text from her that says, I love oranges, you know, and this is Kaylee approved. It wasn't that we didn't know her, it's that there's so many questions and answers you have to answer for at the end that you just don't realize. So to see, you know, Chronicles of Olivia, and she had commented on your videos and followed you and had told me, Olivia, you gotta get TikTok. Her name's Chronicles of Olivia. You know, you gotta follow her.
She definitely did, yeah.
It feels like a personal connection for us to her.
And that's more important than
anything.
advertising.
For us to do right by Kaylee, that's all that matters. If we felt doing right by Kaylee was, you know, to lay down and take this, we would do that.
Or just pure
but that's not her.
viewership or all this stuff that's so important to people. That's not how we raised our family. We didn't care about that. We still don't care about that. So we're trying to just
Make
go
her
by our
proud.
gut feeling in her life, and if that can play a role in solving this crime, then that makes it a lot better. That helps with the process of healing.
And that's another thing I want to say is I really admire your family for being in the spotlight and not being like afraid and not just kind of walking away. And you guys are awesome. Like I don't even know how to describe it.
We are afraid.
Inspiring.
We are worried. People tear us apart. We are definitely worried, and they do tear us apart. But it's not.
It doesn't matter.
That's not as important as our daughter's justice. our daughter's justice is so much. Like, I might not be employable for 100 years.
I might have blackballed myself as well.
Exactly.
But it doesn't matter, you know, because there's just so
I
much.
have to have justice.
It's so much bigger than us now, you know, and we would give everything for it, every day, everything, every day, for the rest of our lives for it. Because Kaylee would do it for us. Anyone, Maddie would do it for us. You know,
all of our children would do it for us. But to know what she went through, and to think that I can just pretend like I've done enough.
Yeah.
She went through absolutely a nightmare in our head.
Terror, pure terror.
So then we have to tell ourselves, if we do that kind of effort. And I think that's the new way to figure out how to get through this, because we're finding out there's a lot of cases that are cold.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cases that are cold. People think
And it
just
scares
shut
us
up,
to death.
just shut up and listen. Guess what? There's those parents are calling me right now and saying, don't be quiet.
Yeah.
Don't make the same mistake I made.
Don't let it die.
You need to be vocal. You need to be uncomfortable. You need to take heat. You need to take risk. You might not be employable, but you might get, you could get justice with that. And that's what we're willing to do.
And those are other victims' parents that have reached out to you to tell you some of their stories.
Other victims literally saying, I followed the rules. I did everything to a T. Multiple times these parents have came out and said, my case went cold. So I'm thinking, if it goes cold, I'm going to say I gave it my all. I did everything I could.
And we're not trying to say we're not going to follow the rules. We're just saying you need new rules. Because obviously the ones that you're using aren't working in every case. So
When
we're
your
going to do
family-
what's right by
Family
us.
told us our baby was dead.
Yeah,
6 hours later, they tell us those rules aren't working.
yeah.
Media goes so fast. So, yeah, we're gonna play with some a little bit more. I'm an IT guy. We're gonna play with some more new modern rules.
Yeah.
What would you say to other parents that may have something like this in the future? What would be your number one tip or piece of advice that you would share with those parents?
We almost tried to put together an organization just for this, because after we went through it, you learn how much you don't know, and we are self-motivated, highly engaged people. So we were trying to think about it's almost like you need a pamphlet to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. But
I just feel like we're still so early into it, you know?
And I think I would say
don't be quiet.
don't be quiet if you have the ability to not be. And most importantly, above all of that, is you have to do right by your loved one. Whatever that means. And that's different for everyone.
Interview me.
Yeah.
Nobody knows your child more than you. And every officer should look at you and say, tell me what your child's life looked like. How did she wake up? What time did she sleep in bed all day?
Yeah.
Did she wake up? Did
What
she
did
get
she
coffee?
normally wear to bed? You know, was she wearing something different?
All
crazy?
pertinent.
You know, so yeah, I would just say you just have to do what's right by them. And if that's, they would want you to just move on and let them, that's absolutely fine. And if they would want you to stay up every day,
Kaylee would
grinding,
not.
you know,
She'd be like, you all better be hitting the streets and
Right.
finding this person for me and Maddie.
right.
Aubrey, where are you? Aubrey, where are you?
You know, and I wish that we had just had
Take Murphy with you.
a stronger hand guiding us through that and, helping us to say, this is someone to talk to, this isn't someone, just so that interview, people might say this afterwards, because I feel like we just felt like we'd been hit by a truck and then it just kept coming back. Because we just kept trying.
But no, every time you talk, you will take more heat. They'll have less
Yeah.
patience for you. So you have to be prepared for that
Yeah.
mentally, because I don't want to give somebody advice that is
Right.
actually very hard.
People are gonna
Oh,
say
the way
little
she
things
said
about
that,
you.
or that she smiled when she said that, or did you see the way they looked at each other when they said?
Yeah, you will become a internet sleuth suspect,
Yeah.
whether you lived 1,200 miles away like I did or not, and it hurts. And so you have to either just completely ignore it or not look at it.
Yeah.
Or get some thick skin fast.
I just don't even look at it. I did for the first week or so, and it just absolutely consumed me. Absolutely consumed me. And
It's
a good
a
friend
full-time
said,
job.
"Get off of it.
Yeah.
Just get off of it." And I said, "You're right." And I was in all the little forums on Facebook, and I just unouted myself. And I told her, I said, I can't see people chew up my daughter and chew him up and chew me up.
And I'm in every group I can be. I monitor every
You are a very strong,
She's my
strong
hero.
young woman.
Yeah.
my hero. I
Every
tell
single
her all
one,
the
because
time.
what if he slips up there? What if he's in one of those groups? What
That's
if he
what I
says something
thought.
that's a little too close that gives me a bad feeling?
That's why I
It's
love
a
it.
long shot, but it's what I can do. I can take that time. I can read those books. I'm physically capable of doing that, so I will.
One thing I would give to another father, if you have a role in that family, that you are the guy that's taken a leadership role in that family. You've always been there. We've been married for 27 years. I would suggest that you don't underestimate yourself. Don't let yourself be so small that you're scared to question that police officers and say, "Why didn't you ask me about these things?" You need to engage them. You need to be aggressive. You need to go in there and say, "You know what? I know about that dog. I know about her favorite shirt, her favorite dress, her favorite shoes." It might seem stupid, but as a father, I know my girl. And I think that information, even if 80% of it is invaluable, 90% something there, could tell those officers if your daughter was behaving in a suspicious way, like she felt uncomfortable, or if she was totally in a comfort zone. And we can see it. We see the video. We're like, "Oh, she's totally comfortable." But the world looks at it and they turn it into like, she was super uncomfortable. So
Why did she say carbonara like that?
Fun time with Daddy, and here, hope your shoulder feels better.
What the hell did you show her?
We thanked Kaylee's family for sharing the precious memories they had with the girls, as well as sharing the difficult moments they've had since this tragedy. Before leaving, Christy showed us Kaylee and Maddie. Their ashes are in urns that stand side by side. This is a sight I will never forget, forever etched in my memory. I really hope the 4 victims will get justice, and whoever stole their lives away will be held accountable. Until next time.